Thank you everyone for tuning in. Welcome to Coffee or Tea, an interview series offered to you by CIPHTS Committee. I'm Sandra Followville, Marketing Manager at Visman Manufacturing Company, and I am with Juliana Fedina, Marketing Manager at Noble. Thank you, Juliana, for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Good. Okay, so before we start, I have a quick game for you. I'm going to ask you some this and that questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. Country or city?
I am definitely a city girl, so I enjoy getting away from the city sometimes, but I love living in downtown Toronto and plan on staying here.
All right. Concert or sports event?
That's a tough one because I basically moved downtown to be near both. But if I would say between concerts and sports events, what do I miss the most is definitely concerts. I'm a big fan of heavy metal and reggae. And so this is probably the first year I can remember since being a teenager that I have not been to a live show. So I'll be the first in line when they start again.
Oh yeah, same here. Camping or cottaging?
We are a camping family through and through. So my family has a long-standing tradition of canoeing. And we've been lucky to do it across North America. So from the Appalachians to the Grand Canyon to Ontario provincial parks, I've either camped, hiked, or canoed through them all.
Awesome. Phone call or text?
So I like the convenience of text, but I think there's a lot of moments that call for a phone call. You know, we lose a lot of tone. So I say if the message is important, if nuances are important, you pick up the phone. Otherwise, if it's transactional, like, you know, what time are we meeting, then that's okay for a text.
Cats or dogs?
I know people are going to hate me for this, but I'm a cat person. I'll admit it. You know, I grew up with cats, and that's actually the black lump that you see behind me. That's actually my cat sitting behind me.
We see a form.
Yes.
The shape. Video games or board games?
Ooh, so I was a bit of a gamer in university, but I'll admit that I did not keep up with it after graduation. I think the furthest I got was a PS2 and then stopped there.
Nice. All right. So now I'm going to ask you a few questions about your role and your career, and then we will move on to more specific questions. We're all very interested to know you better, and we're excited to hear what you have to say. So tell me, when and why did you join the plumbing and heating industry?
So I really fell into the industry through my first job that I applied to after graduation. I had a little bit of indirect exposure to the industry through a co-op placement at school where I worked for Canadian Standards. So I worked in the testing labs and the standards development area up in Rexdale. And so I saw a little bit of the testing side maybe for the appliances and equipment. But then my first real job after graduation was for a small sales agency that sold insulation and adhesives. So, you know, a large part of the insulation market was for HVAC applications. And really, I had the opportunity to really put my hands in all kinds of roles at that job. And quickly, insulation and HVAC became something that I was very interested in and very good at. And I never left. You know, I stayed in HVAC from the very first job to where I am now.
Great. So, knowing this, can you describe your current role a little bit more?
I'm going to say something a little bit wordy, but right now I'm the marketing manager at Noble, or one of two marketing managers at Noble. But I will speak in terms of my department simply because we're a very small, tight-knit team. So, and we work very closely together to deliver our marketing programs. We don't work in silos. So formally, our role is to manage the marketing activities of the company to support business objectives. So we are a support function for the entire organization. To put it another way, we focus on the customer-facing activities. So all the places where our customer might interact with our brand is really what we look after. So that might include public relations, social media, trade shows, merchandising solutions for our branches, the graphics on our trucks. Then there's more traditional stuff like product promotions, loyalty programs, and of course our website. More informally, our goal is really to support internal and external customers to grow their business. So for the sales team, that's, giving them tools like product promotions and sales reports and customer incentives, or even loyalty programs that they can then in turn use to gain customer loyalty. On the branch side, our team supports, branch openings, renovations, in-store advertising, and events. And we also look after the online reputation for all of our locations. So things like Google, Yelp, and Bing reviews. And then the last piece of Noble Marketing is driving value for our vendors. With hundreds and hundreds of brands on our shelves, we work closely with key vendors to create, mini marketing plans that really dovetail into the rest of our business.
So, and what it is that you like the most about your role?
I would say number one is the opportunity to work with so many departments. So, we get a chance to really get a bird's eye view of the company. There's a trend in marketing to specialize, but in a small team, we don't have that luxury. So we're generalists. And by working with all functions, we really get to know the inner workings of our company. In our company in particular, there's a family vibe to it. So we run, for example, one of the largest, distributor trade shows in the industry. And I mean, I have a team of volunteers that comes out after hours, outside work hours, just to help us set up, man the registration table, look after our booth at the show, and just greet customers. It's really amazing. It's rare that you find a company where you can really call on people just to roll up their sleeves and help you out when you need it. And then, the other great part about, especially the marketing is you get to see other people's success, either from our sponsorships or from loyalty programs. I'll give you an example. Like we have an ongoing relationship with George Brown College where we have bursaries for plumbing and heating students. And I have the opportunity to meet with our recipients and hear their stories. So I get to hear about their career journeys, how our bursaries made a huge difference in their career path. And it's an amazing feeling to know that we had a hand in that. Internally, Noble and its sister companies, we have programs in place to build entrepreneurs from the ground up. So we have management trainee programs where candidates get exposed to every aspect of the business, with the eventual goal of managing one of our locations. So you're seeing your colleagues transition from complete newcomers to business leaders, in a very short time. It's an amazing feeling. And on the customer side, through our loyalty program, through our dealership program, I have an example of a contractor that came to us a few years ago, was opening up an HVAC side to his business. He wanted to become a dealer. He didn't know where to start. He didn't know what he should offer, and he didn't know what kind of marketing he should do to start that business up. So he came to us, and together with his sales rep, we were able to really guide him in the right direction. And now that contractor's HVAC business has gone from, a one-tech show to a full team, just to keep up with demand. So it's one of the things that I like most about this job is being able to get creative and really help businesses and people grow.
Yeah, that's awesome. So now, what prior experience has helped you excel in your current role?
I would say all my experience, because I've stayed in the industry, but I would say the behavior that really lends itself to longevity is just being kind and making every interaction positive, leaving that good impression. I know that sounds cliche, but this is a tight-knit industry, as you know, where you see one person in a competitor role today, 5 years later, they might be sitting beside you at a boardroom table. So, I have that situation where members of our current leadership team and I worked together 10 years ago, and for a few years, they were a competitor, and here we are working hand in hand just a few years later. So it's just important to maintain those ties and to maintain a good relationship with everybody, because you're going to see them down the line. You're going to see them, progress through the industry the same way you are.
That's very good advice. Yeah. Another question I would like to ask you is, what is one of your favorite moments or wins while working in the industry?
So I had to spend some time narrowing it down, but I'm going to limit it to three. So one first was in my in one of my first jobs where I was a product manager for insulation. And listen, I know what it's like to be new in an industry. I didn't know anything about HVAC. I didn't know anything about plumbing. And I felt like I was a little bit in over my head. So what I did was I took the 1-800 number that was on the packaging for the product, and I had the calls forwarded to my personal cell phone. So for 6 months, I was taking the calls of customers who were either complaining about the product, asking for technical advice about the product, or trying to find out if it works in certain applications. And so, just that little initiative, and boom, in 6 months, I had an amazing understanding of what the issues were with our product, where it applies best. And in fact, we discovered a new horticulture application that we hadn't even thought of, but our customers had. So it's just a little bit of ingenuity, and it's amazing the results you can get out of it. In that same role, my second biggest win was I was on a building code committee. So it was a hydronic building code. And I learned that the new requirement was basically gonna be too high. We were gonna have a product to have for that market. So I went to my boss and I said, listen, here we are. We don't have a product that's gonna make it past the next revision. What should we do? And he just said, go make it. So I took two of the, top products being used for that application. I remember flying to the US to find manufacturers, people that could put it together, having it tested. And there I was at 25 years old with a product patent, for an industry that I had just come into a year earlier. It's, it's an amazing accomplishment, right? Just to have that under your belt at such a young age. And then more recently for me in my current role, I was hired to grow a certain line of business. So I was originally hired to help build the HVAC side of the business. And I had never done that before. I'd never, helped build something from an acquisition. But I was just confident in my understanding and experience. And here we are a few years later, and thanks to, obviously a team effort, but we all had a hand in that becoming a significant part of our business today.
That's awesome. So what have been some of the biggest changes you have seen in our industry throughout your career?
I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story just to paint the picture on some of the changes I've seen. So this was in my first role where I was a technical representative for a product manufacturer. And I was invited to speak at a building inspectors meeting. So this was for building inspectors in the United States. And the purpose of me speaking at the event was really to be the technical expert on a product that I was trying to get approved to be allowed to be installed in that state. And on my way up to the podium, I was passing by all the tables and everyone was giving me their coffee order. And it didn't really dawn on me until I was kind of almost at the stage and I thought, oh my goodness, I look around the room and I was hands down one of the only women in the room. And they just assumed that because of my age and my gender that I was the waitress. So, it definitely turned them on their heads when I got up onto the podium. But basically, once I started speaking and once they heard what I had to say, the demeanor definitely changed. There was a little bit of embarrassment in the room. But I ended up getting my product approved, which is really the moral of the story. But, on the people side of the industry, that's one of the biggest changes I've seen is, I'm encouraged by the changes I've seen for women in, an area that's predominantly male. But that's changing quickly. At Noble, I see more and more women in leadership roles and we seats on the leadership team. And in the industry, there's groups like the CIPH Women's Network that are making a difference, creating a community for career development and mentorship really creating that equal opportunity environment that we maybe haven't had in the past. So, from 15 years ago, getting a coffee order to now, seeing everybody in leadership roles, it's quite the transformation, in a short time. On the product side, we're increasingly seeing that connectivity and machine learning becoming part of equipment and controls. And, when you think about it, something as simple as a thermostat, it used to be a single switch device. It sits on a wall and it's manually operated. If it's too cold, you walk over, you move the switch up. If it's, too hot, you walk over and you turn the switch down. Now we have smart thermostats that optimize based on people's routines, movements. They even know when you're not in the room. You can ask your thermostat to keep track of your groceries, play your favorite music. Our industry is increasingly a place for tech-savvy people and where they can shine. We've got remote diagnostics and smart controls. It's really, there's opportunity for truly connected building solutions. And I think that opens the door for a lot more creative thinking and problem solving than we might have had in the past. It's no longer a wrench in a pipe. We're seeing increasingly sophisticated technology enter into our product atmosphere.
Absolutely. I think we can all agree with that. One more question, more on the personal side. What is your favorite activity to build work-life balance?
I place a high value in disconnecting. So as much as, I want to react and make sure I'm on top of everything at work, I really do think it's important to disconnect on a regular basis and really take time for yourself. So when we were going into the office regularly, I would not take my laptop home, during the week. Maybe just for emergencies, I always have my phone, but really I wanted to make sure that my home is really my sanctuary. And then I do a hard disconnect, semi-annually on these camping trips. We go backcountry canoeing where there's absolutely no cell towers. And so it's nice to be able to go somewhere and just be in the moment, enjoy the immediate environment and people without having the ability to even check your phone or see what's happening at work. So I think it's important, especially now, to make sure you disconnect and just take time for yourself and the people around you.
All right. That's awesome. Well, our interview is over. Juliana, thank you so much for answering some questions for us today and for sharing some insights. And stay tuned for more upcoming interviews.